commodity solutions. We're based in Sussex, and we're a managed service provider. We've been trading for nearly 30 years. And we had pivoted maybe about 5 years ago, 6 years ago on cybersecurity, and now AI is absolutely entrenched everywhere with what we're doing. And I think in answer, what does resilience mean to me is just being able to recover from disruption, and making safeguards and planning for that. So that's my idea. So I actually have created a presentation, but this is more of an informal kind of chat about things. But and I called it the good, the bad, the ugly, which is my view on AI. The good is all the productivity that comes in, all the great things that it's helping us do in our businesses. The bad could be the disruption, the the changes are quick adaptations that we need to make as business owners and in industry, how we can keep up with things. And then the ugly is where this might all go. So yeah, it was a fun title to put together, throw together, and then all the themes kind of just lifted up into that. So really for us, we're seeing lots of requests for large language model machines going into SMEs. We've recently put a server into a client, and it's an offline LMM, so that they can move sensitive data within the business, and that's fine. But increasingly, we're seeing lots of businesses that are kind of adding Claude co-work into the business, and they simply haven't been prepared. There's just no governance, and there's no preparedness, like the chap said earlier on. So we are trying to change that, and educate the owners about that. We need to slow down. We need to look at all the objectives. What are you trying to do with AI? And then another aspect is, in a few years' time, as this really moves quickly, the AI will be in place. And what happens if there's the risk that AI system, if Claude goes out of business, for example, and then we have all these models and systems all built out that basically have no governance around them. Everyone is quick to roll this out, and they're just not slowing down. So one of the things we do is we've offered some of our clients something called a sprint. So taking a test sample of key people within a business, enabling them with, for example, Copilot licenses, but in the back end, using some conditional access tools, monitoring their security score, and trying to see where in a month's time, how secure, how useful is Copilot to their business, and how it might change the business. So that's something that we're looking at developing, is just really to slow down this charge that's going on, because it's moving very fast. But businesses have a good reason to be excited. You can do so much. You can record this Teams and transcribe everything, get all the action points done. There's great things happening in the medicine world with the is it deep minds, where they're able to fold proteins and do it in next to no time, work out a complex computational models. And every week we're seeing a change. We're seeing some new model coming out, and it opening up a raft of opportunities for all of us. But yeah, we err on the side of caution. And so it's just open it up to have a chat about the different aspects of what's going on. So let me just. So yeah, with regards to the kind of monitoring coordination of AI, it's we definitely do preach about creating an AI policy, making sure it is in situ, training staff so they understand. This is like the new theory about, a few years ago it was about cyber prevention. Now it is about making sure that your staff understand about AI, training the staff, defining the approved tools so that we don't find any kind of shadow AI, certain tools in there that's grabbing data and sharing it where it shouldn't be, reviewing all the back-end data classification and labeling that we would use with something like Microsoft Purview, One aspect we can do is we will put certain sensitive labels on data. So if somebody tries to grab some company data and upload it to ChatGPT, it's blocked. Sign ownership. So in any business, just finding the key people that will be line managers to how this AI is going to work. Updating risk registers. We talk to plenty of charities, and we're telling them, if you are bringing AI into this system, and you've also got a bit of precarious infrastructure as well, the risk register needs to be updated, and same with a normal commercial business. And then all of that, now we all need to update our kind of business continuity plans to incorporate AI and where that's all going to go, and the speed of it, and making sure that those policies and plans are kept up to date. I mean, I'm happy to just smash around different questions, and I think for us on the day to day, we're seeing how AI is becoming a cyber threat. Before, in the last couple of years, cybercrime has been about phishing, social engineering, fraud, and business email compromise. But we're seeing that the threats are now being, are potentially becoming industrialized, moving a lot quicker. So for Cyber Essentials, there was a new question set that came out this year in the UK, and that was about how you need to have everything patched within 14 days. You need to have the MFA enabled. We think we're moving to very quickly towards possibly even next year. I don't know, but this principle of hot patching, so that everybody will need to keep their systems updated, not in 14 days, but in seconds, in minutes. So that the whole industry is going to change, us as well. And we will, what we're trying to do is just staying one step ahead, and trying to see how we can improve all the patching and just move quicker. I think, and then I guess another challenge is, if we become too dependent on AI, if our systems, if we start to depend on it too much, what happens when that's yanked away from us, or it's out of control? There's some aspect, some other kind of condition, or some other aspect that influences it and changes the game. So I think people's reliance on these systems, that we'll build it up and it'll work. It just needs to be more robust and then planned for. And again, it comes down to this AI readiness, preparedness, governance, training, policies, risk ownership, and human oversight. And what do you prefer? Do you prefer your answers with AI or a real person? That's going to be a change. But yeah, it's moving at such a rate. It's going to become just like a utility, like the internet became, and it's going to change everything for us. It's a fundamental shift, and we can see it. We can see it on the ground. We can see everybody's asking questions about it. Everyone's excited, and good reason to be, but we've also got to be careful.
I think that's a really interesting point. That ending point, as you were saying, is it's becoming it will become as sort of day to day as something like the internet. And I think that a lot of organizations probably aren't thinking about it in that way, by any stretch right now. It is the kind of the new shiny thing that helps hopefully increase productivity, that helps us to be able to to take away some of those more menial things that maybe we want to do, not just to write our emails, which I know a lot of people do use it for. It strikes me, I guess, just again coming back to what you were talking about, trying to think it through, and what's you talked about the governance piece, you talked about putting the policy. As organizations are trying to get their head around this right now, what's the first thing they should be thinking about? What's number one of, AI is there, I know it's there, it's probably already been used quite a lot in my organization, even if I'm not aware, I've not created a policy, or I've not thought through how that's going to work. What is it organizations should be starting to think about to help them to prepare?
Well, I think they need to make a matrix of what they actually want to achieve within the business. But what is clunky, what isn't working so well,
Hmm.
and what how you can kind of thread certain working cogs in the business. So just making a kind of this is what we would like, this is what we need, and how will it improve the business? What will it make us react quicker than our competitors? That's the other thing. So the quicker you adopt it, are you actually going to outstep your competitors? And so will your market share, will your bottom line improve if you adopt this quickly? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. But Paul.
Yeah, very similar to Jan's view there.
Mm.
And thanks, Jan, for your summary. It is all about strategy, isn't it? And there's a lot of hype at the moment around what AI can do. And if you believe everything you read and view online, then you can fire all your staff, you can run your whole business on agents, and you'll be making millions of pounds every 30 seconds. But yeah, the reality is right now we're in this experimental phase still with AI, even though it's been out for a few years. And people are still trying to figure out where will this slot into my organization. So it has to start at the board level. It has to start with strategy. What are we trying to achieve? And effectively, all AI is a tool. So it's like, how can we use this tool right now to supplement or complement either our existing staff or our existing processes? And when you really understand your processes, and most businesses don't, once you really understand your processes, you can start to break them down into chunks, and then you'll see where the repetitive stuff is, where the heavy lifting is, where actually we're chucking bodies at this, we're chucking time at this, and this is potentially where an AI tool can in one degree or another make some improvement. But you need the strategy first to identify where you're going to target in your organization. And then, as Jan says, you then before you even think about deploying this stuff, you've got to put the guardrails in place, the policy, the process. What are the approved tools? What are the not approved tools? And actually, you may need to put some controls in place around that as well, like Jan was saying, with sensitivity labeling and things like that, or even blocks, to stop people using the tools that you don't want them to use, because there's a whole, as everyone probably knows, a whole load of ramifications when the wrong tools are potentially used.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Paul. Joe.
James was first.
It doesn't say he was on my screen because it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So that's why I came to you first.
I saw a number 2 that's changed round. James, you obviously flicked on, flicked off again.
Yes.
So I don't know whether this is the right time to ask this, but I think Jan, you mentioned it, is when it gets taken away, because I've not even thought about the fact that AI might just disappear, and I'm not even sure how it could. But that's a reliance thing, isn't it? That when we get used to this, the old school of kind of getting reliant on something and then it suddenly disappears. Is that even a possibility in our collective thoughts? I don't even know how that would happen. And I suppose we haven't even thought about what we'd do if it gets taken away.
Sure. I think as all these, we've got all these different models, ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, all these different, and there's going to be more companies coming into play. I think specialists. I don't know how many AI programs we've adopted here in the business, but lots. We're spending lots on subscriptions, doing different things, because if we're preaching about it, or we want to see how we can improve our customers' setup, then we need to understand how it works for us. But basically, as it ramps up, the usage and the need for AI and the data centers, I mean, all the plans that they've got for the data centers, we have plenty in the UK, and they want more. They just want it to keep growing. I think it's companies will build in models into their business, their day-to-day, and they will rely on that. But commercially, any business can go out of business, and if that happens, then you're left with, right, how is this maintained, or my tokens are no longer working, so it's that resilience is the kind of forward thinking. What happens if that public cloud system fails, or there's, I don't know, some kind of disaster in a data center? and also all these processes are, just becoming more automated. So people are less critical about what they're sending out when they're using this AI, and they're just pushing it out without really, oh, actually, yeah, that doesn't even sound like me, but I'll send it out there. You know how people are sending these emails, and you can see instantly, oh, they've used AI, they've run that through AI. But yeah, it's this dependence. We also speak to people that are very worried about losing their jobs, and I think it's just that, I think people will just need to adopt and get jiggy with it and understand how how to prompt, how to do all that, how to use it, how to manipulate it, bring it into the business and do better for their own business and improve. But yeah, there is a fear down the line that this is just going to keep growing and growing. And it's moved. Look at the rate it's moving. And yesterday we had a public version of Mythos has been released by Claude. I can't remember, I don't know the name, but that just came out. Yeah, and then last week we had Microsoft Copilot Frontiers come out, which has its own kind of co-work. So it's like popcorn. It's moving so quick.
Yeah.
So it could
Fable
implode
5,
as well.
thanks, Rob. Fable 5, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the one thing I would say first, that something I saw last week was around the amount of debt associated with these companies. Most of them have nowhere near breaking even. So the likes of Claude, the likes of Chat, and they are, because they have to just heavily invest and they keep investing. And all of these big providers are obviously backed by other organizations that are happy to spend the money on it, but they are all in significant amount of debt as they are rolling out these programs. So I think, to that point of that conversation, this is not to say that they are going to go away, but I think there is always that background of these organizations. We do this all the time. We work with organizations to try and stop them from going bust. But if they're not thinking about their long-term strategy, if they're not thinking about their long-term resilience, there's nothing to say they couldn't collapse. And it might be easy to transition to another one, but how much are they then embedded in how you run your business is going to be the biggest challenge. James, you've been very, very polite.
It's just it was a quick question, or I suppose observation, touching on what Paul mentioned earlier on about controls. I think there's definitely a requirement to do more in that space, either from a usage or how it's integrated into an environment, noting the fact that if you upload your content or information to it, it effectively gets ingested into the machine. So having a control environment around those things is obviously very important. I was in a desktop workshop yesterday, and we were using AI to determine what the decision-making process was of injects through a live scenario. And it was fascinating because as you pushed through the decision-making process when you were just doing it as a bunch of SMEs, it was quite, I suppose, methodical in terms of, examining the content, considering what next steps might be, consequences of actions, etc., that you would usually do in a scenario. When you pump the same information into an AI and essentially gave it as, this is the standard that we apply, this is the situation, give me your thoughts. Whilst it was very quick, which was obviously, useful at speeding it up, it automatically made a whole bundle of recommendations based on assumptions that it had created, not based on prompts or content that had been provided to it. And it was really interesting that some of them you could go, yeah, I can see that. But almost none of them had any concept of the human consequence of the decision making that it had recommended. None of it was, doing this might mean X, Y, and Z to a person, or those people that are impacted in this particular scenario. So you could take those things and push it through and go, right, that's the action, go, and then be sweeping up something that's much worse later. And I was just wondering whether either anyone seen something similar, or if they actually started using AI not just as a tool to speed things up, to perform analysis, but actually then used it to support decision making, because that's just easy rather than it potentially being the right answer.
Paul, I think Paul's.
Yeah, Paul.
Hi, I'm going to have to jump in a second, but probably to try and help with that, James. AI, generative AI, which is what you were likely using by the sounds, is very much driven by what's called context. And context is king when it comes to the output you're going to get from your AI tool. And we have an old phrase in IT, garbage in, garbage out. So all AI is a collection of knowledge of what's been done in the past. So it's recommending based on that. So it's part of your strategy really should be to have, and the different AI tools deal with this in different ways, but you need to build some sort of profile that the generative AI tool can use as a background to understand the context of the information you're giving it, whether that's a personal profile, a business profile, or something like that. So Claude gives you a whole field you can populate with all sorts of information, and you upload a markdown file or something like that. Copilot isn't as smart as that. You have to upload it per session and so on. So they're all slightly different. But if you can feed it that context of what you're trying to achieve, and then you can factor in things like human impact and personalities and all sorts of things into it, you'll get much better results out of what the Gen AI is producing for you, rather than off of a blank piece of paper and whatever was last posted on Twitter or something like that, which is what it's going to end up giving you.
So I tend to agree with that. My only observation is that it gave decisions without being prompted. It was the automatic default. So you have to prompt in your input that you do not want a decision or a recommendation, because it automatically does that and then creates a bias, and therefore creates a different direction of your independent decision making. That is a genuine issue with it, right? Because people will just do it based on the content that they have, and it's really useful that it gives you then a recommendation, but it automatically biases your own decision making based on the recommendation that it provides, which doesn't always create the same output as what you might have done without using that tool. So being able to create a framework, being able to create a control environment, ring fences its actions, its jurisdiction, if you like, without that recommendation, might be a nice way of speeding the process without biasing the output. And that's what we saw yesterday. It was absolutely biasing the decision making of the humans who were at the table, because it given a recommendation.
You're right. You're right to highlight it. Because of, for instance, the way, I won't mention names, countries, or anything like that, but in certain warfare at the moment, it is being used to make decisions around targeting, and we are, we have seen loss of life through bias that is coming from garbage, the wrong information, not up to date information, and things like that. So it is, you're absolutely right to raise it. I have to say goodbye. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you for joining us, Paul.
Cheerio. Bye.
Really, really good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fascinating kind of area to be looking at, because again, this is part of the challenge that we know that we're faced with when we're dealing with this is how do we control some of those biases? How do we, I mean, it comes back to, I guess, some of the elements about how do you decide what information you're putting into AI, how much information you're going to share, how you're going to use it to help you. But I do think that's a very, really interesting conversation about how it then acts in those situations, and how it takes it upon itself to make decisions when maybe that isn't what you're actually asking to do, or you didn't clearly say don't make decisions, so therefore it's taking the decision to make decisions because that's what it can do.
I think like with basic users, the prompting, if they know how to prompt properly, and then you can create a GPT, so it's a template. And in that template, whenever you put in a request or an input, then it knows these are the guardrails. This is how we'll respond. We'll not make decisive process because we've been told not to do that. That this is a problem when you let it loose. Then it just fires off in every direction, and it's a wild horse, isn't it? We just need to.
It is, yeah.
Rein it in.
I guess one of the questions I was going to ask, but it sort of feels like maybe isn't necessarily the right place, but it is the right place. But I'm not sure whether it's the right question. There's lots of different options out there. So there's lots of different models that we've talked about. There's lots of different, examples. Are any of them better than the others?
I like Copilot because we're a Microsoft shop and most of our customers are with Microsoft, and you can create the purview labels and you can keep it all within that ecosystem. Whereas there's an element with ChatGPT and Claude, it is going somewhat out to the public cloud, and that's the concern. This is why people are now starting to ask about offline AI within their own business, and even that needs to be, because at some point you need driver updates you'll need some updates, so you do need a tunnel to download and get the latest model. But it's very interesting. It's moving at such a rate. It just makes me smile.
Yeah. Joe.
That was one of the questions I was thinking about, because I use it quite a lot in different organisations. Most of them are internally. So this is where I don't really understand IT. If you bought your own Microsoft license, you have Copilot with it. So all of us probably have that if we're on Microsoft. Does that stay within our organisation, or do you have to then put firewalls all around it and stuff like that for it to stay in your? Because there's two schools of thought. So some people said, oh no, if it's your own Microsoft license, it stays in your own Copilot. It doesn't go out to the public thing, which is what I thought it was. Again, because it's changing so much, I don't know whether that's changed. So for my own business, does my stuff stay?
Yeah,
You have to put a control in. I think that, keep me right, Jan, but I think that the default is it goes. If you want it ring fenced, you need to build that control into your own environment. So it's a ring fenced piece, and it's very much dependent on the data classification you would apply to your information and your assets. And of course, the danger of it going up into the usual cloud server and environment that then is used, although it's anonymized, etc., that is then used for decision making, because that learns from that and it begins to eat itself, which is obviously the danger with the AI. But a lot of the clients that I work have now got their own instance, so specific classification is not ingested into the overall cloud environment because of the sensitivity of that particular data that they are operating on. So it doesn't get ingested into the broadest sort of AI engine for that sort of what they refer to as education purposes, but it's just using your information to teach it, right? But you should be able to ring fence it so it doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, so before we deploy Copilot, we would look at SharePoint permissions, review Teams access, who can come and go, remove all staff permissions and everyone permissions, and then we'd look at sensitivity labels to ensure things are safe, and then data loss prevention as well. So using Purview, and then review their secure score. Are they actually secure underneath before you even load on Copilot? But the whole idea with Copilot is it's kept within the tenancy, so that's why it's safe and secure. And it is using Claude, so it's maybe about 4 or 5 months behind the latest reiteration of Claude, I think.
I know that.
No, I didn't know. So that's what it's
I
actually
didn't know
based on.
Copilot used Claude.
It does now, yeah. So I think it uses ChatGPT in the normal Copilot sense, but then Copilot Work is Claude in the background, 5.5, I think.
That's my biggest takeaway. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I'm conscious, Raphael, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I joined later. I don't know. I'm not so quite sure that the format is open questions, but I just wanted to jump in as well. It was a good conversation. Yeah, I guess each environment will vary in terms of the ring fence that James was speaking about. Of course, that I'm in a company today that is a ring fenced environment, so we use with a controlled space. I guess the only thing I wanted to add was that recently I had a conversation internally here in the company about the costs involved into the AI, because now everything we talk about and you guys might be hearing as well is something called tokens. So the Microsoft, AWS of the world, they're offering a lot of capabilities, a lot of AI offerings, and we have tokens behind the scenes we don't really see, but we big companies, they have contracts with these organizations, they pay a fee. But the topic I was involved most recently was where we are going, because now they are offering us for a fee, and they are we are becoming very dependent on AI capabilities, but we don't know how this price strategy is going. I work in a software company, so for us, we develop as well AI capabilities to release in our own software for customers. So the conversations internally is how we're going to strategize this for customers as well, because we need to split the cost. So I just wanted to share and throw out there. Happy to join the group. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Rafael. Really interesting.
So I was just saying, just on that, it's a really good point, right? And I don't know whether you saw the headlines in the week. There was a mystery company that hadn't put a control environment into the use of AI and the spend of its token allocation, and accidentally burnt through $500 million worth of dollars in AI tokens because they hadn't built the control environment for Claude.
Right.
The name hasn't been published, but yeah, quite a big company, I would assume, because they've obviously been able to afford to pay the bill. But it's a really fascinating dynamic in terms of using the technology and obviously how much that costs you in terms of tokens, and therefore, as your bottom line.
I also saw a study on what Uber did. I will search and drop in the chat. I think Uber was doing an analysis into how many developers and how many tokens they were using for the features that they were putting on the app and the costs that they are reducing. I will search for this article. It's interesting as well. Thank you. Deviating the conversation. Just wanted to bring the token cost conversation, which is interesting as well.
I wonder if this is what you were
interestingly,
talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, but you've got, I think last week, Artlist, that they're curators of like graphics and video models like Seed Dance. They've allowed unlimited revisions. So it's if you set it so that it may change down the line. But at the moment, yeah, I think it's possible. Tokens might become less and less visible to us, and as they develop their systems, as the AI companies develop their systems, and it might be based on outcomes rather than, yes, pricing might be based on the outcomes of what you're trying to achieve. So I think the economies
change what you're using. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But that chap was right. Paul was right about the context-aware systems, managing the memory and what you're trying to get out of the systems. Set it up properly, and then it should be economic, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Right. Okay. I'm conscious that we are coming towards the end of our time. I feel like we could continue this conversation for a very long time, but we try and keep these kind of short and sweet. I think there would be an interest probably in having further conversations around this. So I'm sure people will be reaching out to you, Jan, to talk more. But thank you everybody for joining this month's session. I put the QR code in for next month's session. We'll be talking everything IP. So if you're thinking about IP protection, it's a good session to join to kind of get advice around all of those kind of things. And thank you all for spending this lunchtime with us.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good chat.
Thank you too.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Helen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.